Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse and to yet another in our April wine series. Tonight we are looking at 2001's Back to the Mansion and 2006's Roughly Speaking. So without any further ado, let's get this one started. Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse and to yet another in our April wine series. We're winding down on this because this is the last two studio albums we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about both of these together because both of them are not that long of an album. So especially Roughly Speaking. So we're going to look at 2001's Back to the Mansion and 2006's Roughly Speaking. I want to welcome Tim Durling, John Clauser, and Dave Luben here tonight. Gentlemen, how are you? And you ready to talk some April wine?
Let's do it.
All right, we're going to do it. So what we're going to do, we're going to start out with Back to the Mansion. The Back to the Mansion was the 15th studio album from April Wine, released in 2001. I must say I like this record quite a bit, but before we get this going, let's throw it over to Tim Durling like we always do for this series, and then we'll just go around. We'll go Tim, John, and then Dave, and then up to me. All right, Tim Durling, take it away.
Thanks, Grant. Back to the Mansion. Yeah, an album 7 years in the making, or it came 7 years after the last album, Frigate, because when they put Frigate out, it was only a year after Attitude. So I was kind of thinking they were just going to start popping those albums out.
That's what I would have thought, but
and no, I mean they toured and toured. Now, sometime between, I'm not 100% sure, sometime in the mid 90s, maybe Dave knows the answer to this, they lost Steve Siegel and they were back just to a four-piece. And that is the lineup that I saw in, I'm going to say May of 1998. And that's where I got this hat, my trusty hat. It's one of my favorites. I don't even wear hats, so it's got a velvety.
He is now for this series, kids. So you know it.
Got to wear the hat, right?
That's right.
And actually, at that show, even though it was 3 years before the album came out, they premiered one of the songs. They played the ballad "Won't Walk That Road No More," which is, I mean, it's a Miles Goodwin ballad. The man sits at a piano or sits down at a guitar and something good comes out, and that's what this one is, right? And I remember specifically the title will stick in my head because I remember I was in line at the merch booth because I had my eye on this hat. I think the hat was $20. I'm like, that's a quality looking hat. I want to buy that with the logo on it. And they were selling the CD single to that song, "Won't Walk That Road No More," and it was $10. And I remember thinking, it's going to be on their next album.
Mm-hmm.
$10 for one song. And you know what? I probably should have bought it because I think it's a slightly different mix. So I probably should have bought it, but I didn't. But what I remember about it is that the guy in front of me did buy the CD single. He said, "What's on the CD?" And the person running the merch booth said, "Oh, that's their new single, Won't Walk This Road No More." And he said, "Well, that sounds like the story of my life. I'll take it." I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, finally the CD did come out, and I think it came out in mid 2001, not 100% sure. And it's the first, they did it on this label called Civilian Records, which is probably went under within 2 years. The only things that I know of on it are this album and their follow-up album, The Greatest Hits 2003. And not a lot in it for credits. Cool live shot of the band. Now, I'm not saying this to be, provocative, but I don't think this is one of their, I think this must have been at a festival, because I've seen April Wine in concert several times. I've never seen them in a place this big, but it's a cool live shot. I'm guessing it was one of those classic rock bills. And so, like I said, they're down to a four-piece on this album, and I think it's a pretty good album. I like it. I've enjoyed it more going back through it since doing this series than I did when it first came out. When it first came out, in all honesty, 2001, my daughter was born. I didn't really have a lot of time to listen to music. So new albums came out and I got them dutifully. bands I like put out an album and I listen to it once and say, yeah, whatever, and file it. This is actually a pretty good album. It's not as, I don't think it's as pedal to the metal as Attitude or Frigate, especially not Attitude, but it's a good April Wine album. Miles sings great on it. I don't think every song is an absolute killer on it, but it's got some really good songs. If we're talking about April Wine ballads, I already mentioned Won't Rock That Walk. I'm determined to say Rock That Road. Won't Walk That Road No More. Track 3, Paradise, is a really, really interesting ballad. It's it kind of oscillates between dark and light, like happy and sad, and it's really good. And there's another one, kind of a bluesy ballad called Wish I Could Sing, which is interesting because he kind of throws in a little bit of Wouldn't Want to Lose Your Love. There's some poppy stuff on here, like the second track, Talk to Me, which, if my recollection is correct, Miles Goodwin wrote that, kind of dedicated that to his son who was going through a hard time. One of my favorite songs on here, I always like it when they would let Brian Greenway step up to the mic, and he's got 2 lead vocals on this album.
I love it.
Yeah, he's got one called In Your World, but I really like Holiday. And I believe that's one that they did live. That's a great, great song. Opening track, I Won't Go There. It's a very unassuming little opener. It's no big riff. It just kind of comes on. One of the most classic sounding songs on here, I think, is the song I'll Give You That. That little guitar break, that could have been off Power Play. That reminds me of vintage April Wine. Falling Down's an interesting one. It's a really, really heavy, and there's almost I don't know if this was their stab at nu metal, and I hesitate to say that because it's not nu metal in the least, but it's almost kind of a spoken vocal and then sung chorus.
Yeah, it's like it's very creative, I must say, for a legacy band to come up with something like that. But I wrote on my notes, it's very catchy and it's very modern sounding.
Oh yeah.
So you mentioned that nu metal, maybe it's not nu metal like you said.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
It might be their answer to, I don't know. They might have been a band that was totally oblivious to what was going on. I don't know. Now, speaking of experimental, April Wine are no strangers to doing covers, but the last song on the album is a cover of Simon and Garfunkel's I Am a Rock. And I remember reading where Miles Goodwin said he was inspired by a Def Leppard song. Now, I don't know which song, but it's a really strange arrangement of it. But what I like about it is that he sings on it, Miles, Brian sings on it, Jim Clench sings on it. It's kind of cool. It's weird. Anybody that's a diehard fan of the original isn't going to like this very much, I don't think, because it's almost a completely different song. But a good album. Like I said, I like it more now than I did. I'm glad they're back. The logo looks cool on here. I like the cover design. It's simple. The joke is that the mansion is the road, and it's not always what it cracked up to be. I think that's what they're going for. I'm going to give this album. I like it. I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10.
Okay.
I think it's a decent album. It's not one of my favorites, but like I said, if you'd asked me a few years ago, I said, oh yeah, probably maybe a 6.5. So it's gone up in my estimation a little bit. Yeah, solid latter-day album for them.
Excellent. John Clauser, let's throw it over to you. What do you think about this one?
Right. So this was the toughest one for me to get on a physical copy.
Yeah. There aren't any out there, really.
Very few.
Probably one pressing, right?
Pretty much, yeah. And you're gonna pay a pretty penny for most places. I was lucky, but this was I still got it from an overseas person, but it wasn't as ridiculous as some. But yeah, I thought this was a good album. I liked the opener, Won't Go There. It had kind of that kind of a supercharged 60s feel to it. I kind of dug that. Talk to Me, I thought was a nice April Wine style song. Paradise, thought that was a nice little ballad track. Holiday's definitely my favorite song on this one. Has that I don't know, kind of like an REO Speedwagon meets Collective Soul kind of vibe to it. I don't know why I'm thinking that, but I love you said Brian's the vocalist on that one. Yeah, great vocal. just a great song, great catchy song. I'll give you that. Good steady rocker. Wish I Could Sing. Again, nice ballad. Kind of ballad rocker. I like the message in it. I thought that was a kind of a cute song, even though it's for, it was for to lift somebody up. Good message. Looking for a Place. I kind of dug that one too. Falling Down. My thought was it had a bit of an industrial sound with the vocal. Yeah, that distorted vocal sound. To me, that was like an industrial sound. So that's what I got from that. I thought that was a cool track.
I did. Yeah.
In Your World, a nice kind of Beatles flavored ballad there. Won't Walk That Road, another good piano ballad, a great track. I too found I Am a Rock to be a bit of an odd closer for the album, but man, if it ain't catchy, I Am a Rock. And I kind of dug that.
And you have to admit, John Clauser, April Wine makes it their own. Like whenever they do a cover, it's never a straight cover. Because if you would have listened to this,
just play it through.
And really covers shouldn't be a complete homage. I mean, if you're gonna take a cover, you want to make it your own, and they certainly do that with that song. So, I enjoyed it. I think on the first couple listens, like halfway through, it did kind of was losing a little steam for me, but I want to say I think when I was doing my little ranking, because I do have a ranking on this of all the albums now. Okay. I want to say I did like a 7.5 or 8 on this. I have to look it up. I can't remember what I did, but I thought this was a pretty good album, and it didn't let me down for it being so hard to come by.
Well, I'm going to go with an 8 because you mentioned an 8.
Yeah, I'll go with that. I'll look it up while Dave does his thing.
The other thing I want to mention before we go any further, I didn't mention, but it is the same lineup as the last album, minus what's the guitar player that's gone?
Steve Seagal.
Yeah,
he's gone, but still we have Jim Clinch, Brian Greenway, Jerry Mercer, and I must say, even for the album we're going to talk about after this, same lineup. So lineup's been solid.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, Dave Luben, let's throw it over to you. What do you think about this next record?
So I have to say, when it comes to this particular one, I'm really glad I did this show with you guys, because I really never paid any attention to this one. And this was one of those, the more I listened to it, the more I liked it. Yeah. And the very, very first time I heard it was on a streaming service that I had access to, and this was a few years ago. And I was like, I was just kind of meh about it. Then I started really listening to it. I said, you know what? I like this. This is good. So what I'll say is I'll say that, as I've said often on this show, between Electric Jewels and Power Play, to me, it was like they could do no wrong. But when you go outside those, I think this is my favorite one. If there's one outside of that, that period. Mm-hmm. It's an interesting sound. With Attitude, they went kind of very hard rock, as we discussed, with a few ballads mixed in. This one, it's more like a stand back type of consistency, but maybe with a little bit more Y2K in it. Would that be fair to say?
I think that's fair. Yeah.
But what I will say about this one is it's lots of good to very good. They don't have that wow song. Like That's Love from Attitude was probably the very last wow song from April Wine. That's like, I got to crank this up type of thing. You can find live versions of Holiday and Won't Go There on a 2003 CD. And what's kind of cool is if you look up, this is one of their very, very few TV appearances. They appeared on a Canadian show called The Mike Bullard Show. And they perform Won't Go There on that as well. So it's kind of neat to see that, and also see him being interviewed, because you would hear him on radio shows like Showm FM in Montreal and so forth, but you didn't see him on TV very much. He's about in his mid-60s here. His vocals still sound awfully good. He still seems to hit all the notes. Just in terms of what are probably my favorite songs, I think I'd probably go with Won't Go There. And I also like I Wish I Could Sing. And I like that he pays the homage to I Wouldn't Want to Lose Your Love in there. And then I really like I also agree with you guys. I really like the Brian Greenwood, the fact that he does 2 songs in there. And I do really like Holiday. And I'm glad that I get that there is that live version available on the 2003 live album. And then In Your World is a fun song. It's just especially the beginning. It's like, what is this? And it's kind of wild and it's like kind of all over the place. But I really enjoy it. So really like a lot of this. And I think this might be the first time you hear Brian Greenway do two songs, well, two and I guess a third, since Harder Faster. So, and I'm glad I don't know why they got away from that. I found it was a nice touch in like First Glance and Harder Faster to have Brian do two songs or so. However, answering Tim Durling, I am a diehard of I Am a Rock, so I do not like that version. It's like, why did you do that? Yeah, you had everything going nicely, and then you did that version. It's like, oh no, I Am a Rock might be my favorite Simon and Garfunkel song. I really like the version exactly how it is, and for them, I have to admit, when it comes, I'm pretty hard to sell on a cover when I really like the original. It's not impossible; it could be done, but it does not work for me. I like the idea. I wish they'd picked a different song to have all, because I like the vocals of all three: Jim Clench, Brian Greenway, and Miles Goodwin. But this wasn't the song to do it, and I just didn't like the version. And it's like, what are they doing? Why did you ruin this CD? But nevertheless, I'm gonna give this a 7.5.
Okay.
But what I do want to say is, thanks for having me on the show, because I missed this one. I really did until this. So
super. Yeah.
And Dave, I would have liked to have heard your thoughts on some of the earlier albums, because
I know
we didn't have you in all these shows, so I would love to have heard some of your thoughts. So.
Well, now, Dave, we're going to have to go back and redo all the episodes again. I'm going to pull them all off and redo them all.
No, don't pull them. Leave the other ones there. There's just two things I want to comment on real quick that both John and Dave brought up. REO Speedwagon is a great comparison for Holiday. That that it's almost like Roll with the Changes. I never thought about that before. And as far as their version of I Am a Rock, it's almost like they could have kept the music exactly as it was, and just written new lyrics and just made it its own song. Almost like Van Halen's Dancing in the Street. Like that was originally Eddie never intended for that music to be a cover of Dancing in the Street. That was like Ted Templeman doing it. So it kind of made me think of the same thing. They could almost write different lyrics, slightly different melody, and just keep the whole structure of the song the way it is, and nobody would have batted an eye. But I understand that from a commercial point of view, if they do a cover, might get some airplay. I don't think it did, but
no.
Yeah, actually, I didn't get to mention this on Power Play. I think they tried to pull that with Doing It Right, because back in the day, that got the original version got a lot of play. On Canadian radio, and I think Miles thought, hey, it's getting so much play, we're kind of like an up and coming band in the United States, we'll get play, and it didn't work for him. So
that's actually, you know what, now that you mentioned it, that's probably one of the straightest covers they ever did.
Oh no,
that's not all that different from the Powder Blues Band version.
Yeah, see, what I just find with their covers is, I like when they do a cover I don't know, like Sign of the Gypsy Queen, fantastic song, but I didn't know the cover. I didn't know I'm on fire for you, baby.
They made that is a perfect example, and that is the definite version. No one else had ever heard of that song prior to that, but my God. And maybe that's why they do it, because they think maybe it's going to hit. I do have a question. Did Tell Me Why ever get any airplay in Canada? Off Power Play?
Okay, so back in the day, what they used to do was they used to not play Tell Me Why at the concert, but then when the concert would end, you would actually hear it being played like over the loudspeaker as you were leaving So they would do that multiple times. It wasn't a big one in terms of getting a lot of airplay back in the day. It got a tiny bit, but the ones that got a lot of airplay on that one were Enough Is Enough. What If We Fall in Love got a lot of play in Montreal. If You CK, that was a controversial one, but it not so much in Canada, but I do remember, I didn't get to talk about that album, but I remember him announcing at the concert in Montreal about, I think it was in Wisconsin or something like that, how like it caused all this controversy, and it was the Reagan days and this and that. So
I got a funny story about that, actually. The radio station, well, it's the same call letters, it's a different location that I still work at to this day, or work for. They had a single, an old one of Tell Me Why, and the B-side of it was If You See K, and someone had taken, I don't know, a letter opener or something and just drug the groove across so that you could not play If You See K, and it was written all over the label, do not play, not for radio play. But that was the B-side. The A-side was Tell Me Why. I don't ever remember hearing anything from that album nowadays. The only thing you ever hear is Enough Is Enough.
And we don't even hear that. So
Tell Me Why might have gotten some airplay for the novelty of being a Beatles cover. Although that's another one. I wasn't familiar with the Beatles version of that either, and it's completely different.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They just totally revamp everything. So it goes right along with what they've been doing the whole time. So I can't fault them for that.
That one I do like, by the way. That's probably the few times they did a cover of one that I was familiar with the song. I said, hey, you know what? I like this better.
Oh, it's great. Miles' little bluesy guitar all the way through. Yeah.
So Dave, you gave that a 7?
7.5.
7.5. Okay.
This is ranking pretty high so far.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to rank it even higher here in a second.
Oh.
Because when I heard this, I was always under the impression that this CD goes for a lot of money. There aren't very many copies around. You cannot find it anywhere. It was on the Civilian label. They probably only pressed so many. What is wrong with this record? Why did they not press enough? Where are all the used copies out there in the marketplace?
No streaming.
Right. Well, I was able to secure one off of Amazon for $20. Amazingly, that I got it from Amazon. But so anyway, I got it, and immediately once I played it, I just absolutely went like another one of those moments where, oh my God, a legacy band, April Wine, after all this time, could put out a solid, consistent effort like this. I think the whole thing, I can listen through the whole album and I think, wow, that song just flows right into the next song. That's a great track. Maybe there's not a song in here like Just Between You and Me or All Over Town or whatever, but as a record, it's very cohesive. The sequencing's nice. You've got 2 Brian Greenway tracks, which are killer. And we all love Brian Greenway on here, but I think all the songs are very solid. I like Miles and April Wine produced this one. And I think that's who should produce. They should produce themselves because obviously they know what to do. I think the whole thing's great. I Am a Rock, like I said, you could like it. You don't have to like it, but it goes along with what they've been doing for years. They put a cover on, they make it their own. Whether you like it or not, I don't know. So I can't, give them a demerit for that. And plus you've got all 3 guys singing on it. So that is cool. And if you're going to have a track like that, make it the closing track, So I think it's fine. What are you going to say, Tim?
I'm kind of hoping that Unidisc can get the rights to this and repress it, and maybe put it out on vinyl too. Like that could happen. Someone out there owns this album, and the live one, because they're both on Civilian. So I can foresee that happening. I can foresee going into a record store and seeing this on vinyl.
Gosh, which remind me, I'm having a brain thing. There's a live album on what's the live album on Civilian? Do I have that?
It's called Greatest Hits Live 2003. It's got a red cover.
Oh crap!
And
I don't have
shot
that.
of them on stage.
I don't have that one either.
I don't have that one either.
It's
2 discs, and it's got 2 new studio songs on the end of it.
Crap, John. We have holes in our discography. Oh man. But anyway, for a legacy band to put something out this strong after all these years, it's like the Scorpions doing Rock Believer, which knocked it out of the park. Who would have thought that they would have produced something so solid? This is a solid April Wine record. I don't see anything that's weak. Like I said, maybe there's no Sign of the Gypsy Queen on here, but holy crap. The guitars are killer on here. The harmonies are great. Brian sounds great. Miles sounds great. Everybody sounds great. Songwriting's good. I put it right up there with that classic era for me, because not all of these April Wine albums I can listen to and hit me just instantly, and I just go, oh, This is great. This one did that for me. I don't know. I can't explain it, boys, but I like this record a lot. I'm going to give it, it's not a 10. It's probably more of an 8, but I'm going to give it a 9 for effort because holy crap, I think they were running on all cylinders on this. For me, I think it's just great. I could listen to this and then pop on, power play and just be just happy as can be. I don't know.
By you giving it a 9, that's going to average this out to 8. So that's pretty good. That's as much math as I can handle, but I think I'm right. 2 7.5s, an 8, and a 9.
Yes, Tim, you are right on. God darn, a mathematician in the bunch. Yeah, that gives us an 8. That's an average of 8. So, hey, for legacy band, that's great. I think it's better than the previous 2 records, and I thought those were okay. But I don't know, that's just me. Grant Arthur review. If you can find this and you like April Wine, by all means, try to track one down. But good luck.
Yeah, I think all there is used copies now.
Oh, yeah. Well, I wonder, it couldn't have been in print very long. I mean, until I bought the one online, I'd never seen it ever.
See, I happened to get it when it first came out, and it's one of those things where it's a good thing I did.
Yeah. All right, so we gave that one an 8. That is wonderful. Let's jump over. All right, we're going to jump to 2006, and we're going to look at the final studio album so far. I don't know. I can't imagine them putting out anything else. Like I said, it's been since 2006 since we had a studio record. So we're looking at Roughly Speaking, and this is the 16th studio album from April Wine, released November 2006. This album is interesting because evidently the band members wanted to go back and use more traditional recording means like 2-inch tape, like all 80s technology to get more of a warmer sound or vintage sound, a more pleasing sound, if you will. And I think they did achieve that. So let's throw it over to Tim and see what his thoughts are on Roughly Speaking. Tim Durling.
This is an interesting one. Like you said, and for a lot of reasons. It's an extremely short album. Like it is, I don't even know, I've never timed it, but I don't even know if this is a half an hour. It's a very, very short album.
I think it's like 22 minutes or so.
Yeah, it's short. Like it's practically an EP. But it's, I don't mind it. Like I think it's pretty good. I think it's decent. Almost like a recycled, it looks like recycled paper used for the album cover. And really, it fits along with the whole analog thing. Like, I don't even think this sounds 80s. It sounds 70s to me.
Exactly.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like April Wine sounded in the 70s per se, but it's very warm. But it's good. It's a good full recording. There's nothing, I don't think there's anything lacking in it. And like we said, it's the same lineup as the last album, still the same 4-piece lineup. Now, Jim Clench would end up leaving. I think for the tour for this album, there were some disagreements, and he sadly passed away in 2010. So he's actually right now he's the first famous musician I've ever met that has since passed away, which is kind of weird. He was replaced by a guy named Breen LeBoeuf, no relation to Shia, and Breen was in a French-Canadian band called Offenbach, which I guess were pretty big in France and in French-speaking Canada. But he joined, and that's the lineup I saw in 2008, which is the last time I saw them in concert. And they did, the only song from this album they did by then, I don't know what they did when they first went on tour, but it was a song called Sheila, which was apparently written about a stalking fan, kind of a, wannabe groupie, not really sure. I will say that for an 8-song album, this might have the biggest percentage of songs with bracketed titles, kind of thing that would drive our friend Martin Popoff crazy. So it's Saw Someone, That Wasn't There, I've Had Enough for Now, I Want to Go Home, You Don't Even Know How I Love You So, and If You're Coming, I'm Out of Here. So half of this album is bracketed titles. Once again, Miles producing. Now this one actually had big label distribution in Canada. Yeah. It was on BEP Records or DEP, and it was distributed by Universal. So it was a little bit easier to find. at least for a while. I think I paid $10 for this or $9.99 for this new.
Wow. John's
So-
looks different. Look at John's. Mine's not. His is white, and mine's not.
Now mine looks the same as yours, Grant.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Maybe
the
I got a
front
weird
cover's
version. I don't
John
know.
Clauser always trying to be different on this show.
Yeah,
I don't know what
yeah.
it is.
So it's very bluesy. Like it sounds very much like if you played this album and then played Miles' two Friends of the Blues albums that he did in more recent years, it would fit right in. But he still sings really, really well. There's one song on here called Nightlife. And now I'm not 100% sure right off the top of my head. The lyrics are printed out in here, but are the credits listed here?
Well, it's
Nightlife.
Willie.
Yeah, Willie Nelson, Walter Breland, and Paul Buskirk. Now, Miles added some lyrics of his own. When I saw them in 2005, because I've seen them more than any other band, they did this song before this album came out. They did like a really slow blues on it, and Brian did a really good like solo. But I've heard this. I remember thinking, I've heard this song before, and I don't know where I've heard it. David Lee Roth did a version of this song on his, it wasn't a successful album, it was a big flop, his 1994 album called Your Filthy Little Mouth. And it's a slightly different arrangement, but it's the same song. It's like this nightlife, it ain't no good life, but it's my life. So it's like, I know this song, and when I did it in concert, like, I don't know where I know this from, but it took me a while. My favorite song on here, boy, it's hard to pick a favorite because everything just kind of, trundles along, right? I do like the opener quite a bit. Saw someone that wasn't there. I think I like Life Goes On quite a bit too. Now that I've listened to it a few times, it's it just seems like you start the album and it's done. So I kind of wish they'd put maybe a few more songs on here, but I don't think there's any filler on here per se. So I'm not sure. Or I remember thinking when this came out, well, maybe it's so short because they're going to, put another short little album out the year after. Well, of course that didn't happen, but yeah, it's an interesting choice for what ended up being, I'm going to say, their final album. Miles is stepping down from performing with the group. There's no saying that they couldn't do another studio album, but I can't see it happening. I don't, maybe if they do, we definitely got to talk about it. But for now, for roughly speaking, I'm going to give it a 7. And yeah. If anything, I'm docking it points for being so short, but it's okay. I don't mind it.
Yeah, I get it. It's not like one of their stellar works, but it's not
my
by
opinion,
any means an unpleasant listen.
My opinion on this is the same from when I first heard it till now, unlike this, which has risen quite a bit. I would have liked another one of these, but anyway.
It almost seems like they got to this record and went, well, let's just do some pleasant sounding songs and just kind of keep it simple, blues
very jammy. It sounds like they
jammy.
I doubt that it was more than 2 or 3 at the most takes of any one song on here.
But it just flows real well. It's
nothing wrong with it.
There's nothing wrong with it.
Nothing
All
wrong
right,
with it.
so we got a 7. Let's throw it over. Thank you, Tim. That was great. John Clauser, what you got?
All right. So while you guys were talking, I discovered what version I have. So now I got mine from a international seller off Discogs. And apparently what I have is a 2006 Russian unofficial release. So that's why mine's white and you guys have a clear one. So that if that tells you anything. So
it probably sounds exactly the same as ours. So.
Probably does. So with that said, okay, so the opening track had a very Stevie Ray Vaughan feel to it. With that shuffle, with Jerry doing the shuffle drum, kind of reminded me of some Stevie Ray Vaughan there. That was a strong opening track, though. I dug that one. Let's see. I've had enough for now. At first, I wrote it was like an Eric Clapton flavored ballad, but then I'm thinking, no, I don't think it's an Eric Clapton flavor. There's something else flavored in there, but it was still a pretty good track. I liked Nightlife. I kind of liked the kind of the throbbing blues that Jim was doing with the bass and stuff. I thought that was it was probably one of my favorite tracks from the album. Again, didn't realize it was a Willie Nelson song, but go figure. Sheila definitely has that 60s flavor feel to it, and a nice bright feel. Now the funny story here with You Don't Even Know. So I was playing this, and the song kicks off, and my wife, who happened to be walking by, she starts singing, "Doing it all for my baby."
Yes, I thought so too. Yes, that's right.
It's like, okay, Huey Lewis called. They want their song back.
Yeah, that's right.
Shh, don't let Huey know, because he likes to sue people.
Oh yeah, Asbury Parker Jr.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, so that's all I'll say about that. I Am kind of has I don't know, kind of a status quo, just straight up bluesy rocker. I thought that was a good track. I like that Life Goes On. That was a good moving track. If You're Coming, I'm Out of Here. Well, I don't know, quick little acoustic silly song to kind of throw away to have fun and end the album with. But yeah, I saw on my phone, it's about 25 minutes is what this clocks in at. I look back on my list, I only gave it a 6.5, and I think it's just because it is short. You can definitely hear a lot of the different influences and sounds that are, it just almost is a little bit of it's an April Wine style of all of that, but you could definitely, like I said, the Huey Lewis thing was what threw it out the window for me. But it was still a fun record to listen to in the car, and I enjoy it. So there you go. That's what I'm giving it.
All right, perfect. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
All right, Dave, let's throw it over to you. What do you got on this?
So on this one, so first of all, I will say I didn't get to spend as much time on this one as I did the others. So I'm at the end, my rating is going to have a bit of an asterisk to it. However, my general comment about this, it's different. It's different than the type of music I typically listen to. I'm not really a blues fan, but I appreciate the effort. I basically feel like I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, you know what, these guys basically, they wanted to do this, and it was like they did something they really wanted to do. And I do feel when I'm listening that these guys are having a really good time recording this, because it was within them. And the fact that the last two albums that Miles Goodwin has put out are blues, it's like, yes, I wanted to do this, and it was almost like his bridge. So about half of these songs are basically blues songs. He goes back to more typical rockers with I Am, and Sheila, and those are the ones that he plays in that 2007 concert I dug up that he played in Vancouver. I like this song, If You're Coming, because I like that country sound, and what I do like about that one is that when Brian Greenway was added to the band, the concept was that Brian could play the harmonica. How many songs does he really play on the harp? Does he really play the harmonica? I mean, there's Rock and Roll is a Vicious Game, and that sounds great when he plays the harmonica. That's like that's an all-time
probably
classic.
It, isn't it?
And I don't think he played harmonica in the studio.
It's just interesting that I've read numerous times. Oh, we brought Brian in because he could also play the harmonica. Well, in this one, I hear a harmonica. I'm going to make the assumption that it's him. So, as I said, I'm going to give this a 6 with an asterisk. What I'll say about it is it's growing on me. I really been more focused on listening to it this week, and I've been kind of listening to it more and more. But what I will say is that whereas the Back to the Mansion one is like, I'm like constantly, I want to listen to this. I want to listen to this. And it was like, the more I listened to it, the more I wanted to listen to it. This one, it was kind of more, it's I'm enjoying it to a point, but if I wasn't doing the show, would I have wanted to sit and really listen to this? Not really. So I respect the effort. I like the fact the guys had a good time doing it. Some songs in there I kind of enjoy. As I said, I do like the Sheila one. And I do like that If You're Coming one. Don't know why, but I do. So I'll give it a 6.
All right. Hey, that's fair enough. Thanks, Dave. That was awesome. My thoughts on this, I kind of already mentioned it, but it's a way more traditional sounding. It sounds like something that, like you said, it sounds like something from the 70s, but it doesn't sound like April Wine in the 70s. But the recording, it dates itself to like that. It's very warm. It's very musical. It's very bluesy. I think it's just April Wine going, where are we at right now? Let's just throw out something and just keep it laid back. I mean, I don't mind. I like the whole thing. It's not one of those April Wine albums where you're going to go, this is a classic album, but I wouldn't say that Back to the Mansion's a classic album, but man, I'll tell you, it's up there for me, people. But yeah, it's fine. There's nothing on this particular record that's offensive. It's just them playing the blues pretty much and a little bit of country thrown in. It's fine. It's nothing major. I would give it I think probably a 7's fair, because all the songs are decent. It's just a good listen. It's just not anything that's a major work or anything. They just whipped it out in the studio and here we go. It's amazing though, because I just don't understand how they can be on all these small independent labels and all of a sudden on this last one, they're on Universal. And for Universal, they just threw out a 22-minute EP essentially. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense.
It must have been a one-time deal, and obviously not a lot was, spent on the packaging. And I don't know. It is interesting, but I don't think it was a contract per se. I think it was just, we'll put this one out, because I've never seen DEP distribution on anything else.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is. I don't know. But yeah, only 8 tracks. Well, it's a little bit too long for an EP, but it's damn near an EP. So I give it a 7. So we're giving this, it ends up being a 6.625. So 6.6, which I think's a fair. I would not tell someone not to buy it. I wouldn't start here, but if you're trying to fill in your catalog, I don't think it's a bad record. It's middle of the road, but it is what it is. That's just where they were at the time.
Yeah.
Nothing bad. Well, wow, we've zipped through that in like 40 minutes, boys. Anybody else have anything to add? But before we go on, I want to mention the next show we're going to do is going to be the live album show. And then after that, we're going to rank all of the records together and talk about our favorites and just kind of cap off the whole series. And that'll be it until something else comes out. So you never know. But gentlemen, is there anything you need to mention or anything before we wrap this up?
I mean, I'll plug my channel. I don't have much to say about the.
Well, we got time
yeah,
to play.
We got a little time, so hey, I'm just gonna plug my channel, my music corner. I finally got my Wasp series started, so that's gonna be my little fun thing for a little while. I still do another show with some friends that we call the North and South Rock and Metal Connection. We have a little bit of fun talking about some different years, and we're going to branch into some other topics. So look for some stuff coming your way soon with that. Yeah, go listen to some April Wine.
There you go.
And when you do, if you want to, and if you've been like me, you've enjoyed going through this catalog, and you finally get to these two. These were great to fill up the holes with. You get the whole complete collection from beginning to end. This has been a great ride.
It's been a good series.
And I'm really looking forward to digging into the live albums when the ones I picked up. So for Tim and for Dave, who I know has been they're like the big super fans. So it's great hearing these guys talk about the band and the albums and stuff. So my hat's off to you guys for the knowledge you guys have brought to it. So that's all I got.
Excellent. I appreciate that. And I want to congratulate you on the Wasp series. Finally getting that out there.
Forever in the making.
It's only been a year and a half. I don't know. But yeah, if we hadn't done this series, there's a lot of these April Wine albums I wouldn't have heard. That's the beauty of doing like this type of series, because you can just it just opens you up to a lot more. Or any of these shows that we do where we maybe don't, like that Cry of Love. I just did that Cry of Love show. I hadn't heard Cry of Love. I said, oh, sure, we'll do it. And those are damn good albums, I thought. Man, I really like Cry of Love. And I really had never, had any experience with it. So that's what's great about doing this stuff. Tim Durling, is there anything you need to push or you want to mention real quick?
That's Tim's Vinyl Confessions on YouTube and all the socials. My PDFs, my unspooled book are still available, $5 US. I'm now on Ko-fi if you want to support the channel, if you like what I do. But new episode drops every week. And yeah, just back to what you were saying. I remember, I think we did the episode on the Contrarians where we talked about our favorite 3 concert experiences. Mm-hmm. And one of yours was like April Wine, Sammy Hagar, Scorpions. And I remember thinking, I never get to talk April Wine with anybody. Mm-hmm. It would be so cool to do this. So I've really enjoyed this.
Yeah, it's been great. Well, like I said, we're winding it down, but we've got 2 more coming. Dave, is there anything you need to?
I've got a concept for a concept for a channel. Not ready to talk about it yet, but I got some ideas. So maybe by the next show I'll be ready to announce something.
Nice. So what we'll do, I'll throw some dates out like we normally do. But I want to thank all you gentlemen for coming on. We'll see you on the next one. So we'll be looking at those April Wine live albums. So please like, subscribe. You know what to do. And gentlemen, I want to thank you for coming on. It was yet another fun discussion. And my God, we're getting this down to a science. We can crank these out in 45 minutes. What can I say? All right. Thanks, everybody. And we'll see you on the next one.